John Harper, of course, New York Daily News, SNY. Been covering baseball for a long time no chat. And we say hello. John, how are you today, buddy? Okay?
Hey, can I talk to Steve there, Chris?
Funny, Johnny. How you doing? Things all right? You've been busy.
Yeah.
You've been down in Florida.
Yeah,
How you feel?
right.
Let me hear.
Yeah, I spent about a month down in spring training. Nice and warm down there. I didn't see you there. Didn't you make a tour or anything?
I used to make them all the time, and now with this MLB network, I can't get out of Staten and Secaucus and or Manhattan, so I don't get a chance to do that. One of these years, I'll get back into it. You know how much I love those tours, bouncing around. Now, we got a lot to do with the two New York teams because there's a lot of interest with them. Let's do Mets first. Everybody seems to think Callaway is going to be good, but we all know he could be basically Miller Huggins. If they don't have health at that rotation, it's all going to go to waste. Will they be healthy, or they due for some good luck with that starting rotation?
Well, there's no doubt they're due for some good luck. Whether they get it or not, we'll see. But they did come through spring training pretty healthy. I really like the way Matt's finished after kind of a shaky start. I think he's a kid who just needed to regain his confidence after some of the injury stuff he's been through. He looked really good at the end. I thought it was interesting that Harvey, of all people, who has said nothing for the last year or so, and it sounded like he wanted to quit baseball at the end of last year, came out and said he thinks we're going to shock a lot of people. To me, that's an indication he's feeling a lot better about himself and kind of feeling a little bit like the old Harvey that we saw a few years ago. So I think that's good. And to me, Syndergaard and DeGrom are kind of givens. I picked DeGrom actually to win the Cy Young. I think him and Syndergaard, either one has the capability of doing it. So those guys are in place. I think Island is a guy who's really, he's coaching these guys with a little more toughness than Dan Warthen did, and he's insisting that they pitch inside. We'll see if they do it. I thought they handled Wheeler the right way. They gave him his chance. He didn't finish strong. Didn't deserve the spot. They gave it to Lugo. So I think Callaway and Allen both are setting a little bit of a tone of accountability, which this team really needs.
All right, how about Callaway? What was your impression of him? He, of course, from Tennessee with Francona all these years. How about him down in spring training? Give me a little rundown on a new Met manager.
Yeah, I got to spend a couple of different times along with him. I'm impressed with him. I do think he is a guy who's going to demand accountability. He told some stories about how he dealt with some of the pitchers in Cleveland, and it wasn't all rainbows over there as good as they were. He said he had some times when he had to get in people's faces, and I think Mets fans maybe got the wrong impression because I think he was trying to be at his first press conference, and even sometimes in spring training when he does those press sessions, I think he's trying to come off as so enthusiastic and in support of his guys that it's a little bit over the top. But I do think, away from that, he's going to hold guys accountable. And listen, the bottom line is, though, he's never managed. He's a pitching coach, and when the games count now, we'll see how he handles the in-game decisions. For him and Boone, it's always about guys who have never done it. Can he handle the in-game decisions, and can he deal with the ramifications of decisions when they have to answer for afterward in press conferences, in New York, the headlines and everything else. I think that's the ultimate test for these guys. But Callaway, to me, he is an impressive guy.
You were impressed with him. Cespedes' health, they need 140 games out of him in left field. Is that doable?
That's a great question. Well, listen, he's finally has discovered the wonders of hydration. It's amazing. An elite athlete, a guy who didn't drink water basically until this past year when they found out. They did some tests on him, and he stopped doing the 1,000-pound leg lifts, leg presses. So maybe he's not going to have the quad and hamstring pulls. That's what's really brought him down the last couple of years. If he can play even 130 games, I think it's huge for this team because you know what he can do, and I do think he's still determined. He's talked about winning an MVP award. I think he's really on a mission to do something like that. If him and Conforto both play 130 to 140 games, I think this offense is going to be it's probably the best it's been since that stretch in 2015 when they played well in the Cespedes.
And how about the corners with Frazier at third and Adrian Gonzalez, of all people, at first base? How about that?
Yeah, the Gonzalez thing, I mean, it worries me that to hear that he comes in 2 hours before he needs to get on the field just because of his back. I mean, he had back problems last year. He's a 35-year-old guy. And when it's similar to what, David Wright, not that he has stenosis, but David Wright was put in all that time to get on the field when he could still play. It's an indication to me that he's probably not going to get through the year without having to spend some time on the DL. And then whether the kid Dom Smith never even got on the field this spring after showing up late his first day and then had the quad problem. So they got some issues there. But you could play Jay Bruce at first. He'd be serviceable, which might end up even being the best option for this team if they want to move Conforto to right. And actually, this kid Nimmo proves that he can actually play in center. We'll see about that. But I do think Frazier. I thought they should have signed somebody with some speed. Maybe traded for Harrison or signed Eduardo Nunez, because I do think they need speed on that team. And Frazier's not a speed guy. He'll give you some home runs. He'll give you good defense at third. But it's a slow team, and it's an older team. A lot of guys in their 30s, so that's what you have to watch out for too.
Indeed, yeah, they seem like they're confident. As you said with Harvey, they're pitching. And Familia, he says committee, but I got to figure that Familia 51 saves 2 years ago. He's going to be the closer, correct?
Yeah, that is one thing Callaway believes in, trying to do it a little bit what the Indians did in the postseason, but that's hard to do over 162 games. These guys, these pitchers want to know when they're pitching, and on a nightly basis trying to pick out spots for them when they think maybe Familia would be best in the seventh inning here. That's really hard to do over a season. I think it'll end up being Familia in the closer spot for the most part. And the guy's got great stuff, but now he had the issue last year with the aneurysm or the blood clot, and that bullpen to me is a little bit of a question. I thought they should have gone out and signed a guy like Wade Davis. They have Ramos. They signed Swarzak, who was hurt in spring training, didn't pitch much at all. And then they have Blevins. But to me, there's not a lot of proven guys down there. I think that could be a little bit of an issue.
All right. Now, the Mets team, from a monetary standpoint, if they had to make a big move in July to add something, do they have the resources to be able to do that?
Well, they always say they do. And but then – the proof is we'll see, because I thought, again, during the winter, I kept saying sign Lance Lynn. To me, he was the guy that really would have solidified this rotation. They signed Vargas instead, who's more of a true kind of a number 5 guy, a finesse guy, changeup guy. And I think, considering what Lynn signed for, they probably should have done that. But I don't know. That's a great question. And the payroll ended up being higher than what it looked like early on in the off season. They ended up getting some deals at reasonable prices for guys like Frazier and for Bruce and then even Vargas. So the payroll, it's not a horrendous. I mean, it's maybe not what you want for a typical New York team, but if they're in contention, when they were in contention in 15 and 16, Alderson did make moves at the deadline. So if he says they will, then you got to wait and see.
All right, I think it's an easy one. Over under is 82. Where would you go?
Yeah, I got to go over. I do think they will be in the hunt for the wild card spot. I think they'll be in the mid to upper 80s. I don't think they can play with the Nationals over the course of a year. But to me, if they're under 500, then something obviously has gone really wrong again in terms of injuries.
Now, I agree. I would go over 82 too. I think that's an easy one. Them and the Rockies at 82, I think are easy. All right, how about the Yankees? They're fascinating. This Bird thing's a big hiccup, though. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's do Boone first. Did you like what you heard and saw out of Aaron Boone the last month in Tampa?
I did. He's a natural, even more so than Callaway. And Callaway had a little bit of that. I think that, the Mets are always kind of standing over their manager, telling them, what they want him to say. Whether Boone, just to me, he was really, really natural in handling the media. I think he's got a lot of Joe Torre in him. I think he's got those type of people skills. He relates really well, media, players, whoever he has to deal with, and it seems to come natural to him. I just, again, until the games start, you're not going to know how he handles the in-game decision making and the, what happens when he makes the wrong decision, has to answer for it. But I do think he is really I can see why they hired him, because he does have those type of people skills.
All right, Stanton. He's going to be DHing a lot, maybe more than he wants to. And B, when he does play, it might be more left field. And C, when he goes 1 for 12 with 9 strikeouts in a 4-game series in Fenway, the Chris Russos of the world are going to be all over him. Can he handle that?
That's a great question, because he's definitely got a little edge to him. I saw that in spring training. He's an interesting guy because he's pretty blunt sometimes with his responses, and he'll give you an honest opinion. But at the same time, you can see he's not that comfortable with all the media stuff. And in Miami, I know they didn't love him there. There were times when the media didn't really get along with him that well. So it is going to be fascinating to see because I think if he gets off to a good start, all will probably go well. But if not, yeah, that's going to be a telltale sign because we've seen it, from other guys. I mean, now listen, these teams they're much more involved in terms of the way they handle their players and being in the media and all that. It's not like the old days with Bobby Bonilla and the Mets. But still, at some point, you have to answer for it and be accountable. And Stanton's going to have to deal with that if he does have a bad series or whatever. I think that's the unknown with him in the New York factor for sure.
Yeah, well, you're right. They don't throw you out to the wolves like they used to. I mean, there's always somebody there. They move the press conferences along. They put him in a
PR
big
guys quick to step in if things aren't going well.
Yeah, exactly. They put you in a big room instead of near your locker if you've had a real bad. So it's a little different there. All right, how about? Do you see any reason at all where Judge, who's the big star, well, it wasn't that long ago when he was hitting 186 and striking out every 4 times, or twice a game. Do you see any reason at all where Judge would calm down and not be nearly as effective as he was last year when he hit the 50 homers?
No, I think he's legit. I mean, I think we saw him. The most impressive thing to me was that he went through his struggles and found his way out of it and had a big September last year. Maybe the shoulder was a factor or whatever. But to come through that when it looked like his season was just going to go downhill all the way and have a huge September, I think 15 home runs, told me a lot. He's a smart kid. He made adjustments off his first taste of big league pitching, and I think he will be able to continue. It wasn't like pitchers weren't making adjustments on him, the second. It's not like all of a sudden things are going to be different his second year. They were still making adjustments on the fly with him, and he got good at being able to take pitches when he was in the right zone and everything else. When he started chasing, you could see it became an issue. Maybe the shoulder was part of it. Maybe it was just mental. But I do think he's legit, and having Stanton, if Stanton's going to hit behind him, that's only going to help him. And, I should say, as much, I do think there's caution there for Stanton, but I did, in Sunday's Daily News, I did predict he's going to hit 62 home runs. I watched him in spring training. He's got a much different swing than Judge. It's much shorter and quicker. I haven't watched a lot of him close up. And I saw him hit balls off the outside corner just with a flick of the bat over the wall and right or off the wall and right at Yankee Stadium, that short porch. He's going to hit 25, 30 home runs just doing that. So I think both these guys are going to put up huge home run numbers.
You do, and I agree. All right, how about Bird at first base, John? This is a blow to them. You can't count on Bird. The bottom line is you can't count on him. I mean, when he plays, you love him, and he'll have his 30, 40 games where he looks like Don Mattingly, and then he'll get hurt again and be out another month. So you can't.
Yeah, it's troublesome. I've defended him because I know that Nick Johnson label is starting to get attached to him. And now the fact that he's having another issue with the same – I know it's not the same injury, but the same foot, and he's going to be out this long. He had surgery on it today. It's not a good sign. Yeah, some guys just are more brittle than others, and it is too bad because the guy – the Yankees love his swing. Remember, he had the biggest home run, I think, in that whole postseason last year when he took Andrew Miller deep.
No question about it. Game 3. Yes.
Yeah. So, but it's a big loss, but Cashman's made a lot of good moves here, and signing Neil Walker was another one. They got him. I think they got him mainly because he thought it was just too much of a good deal to pass up, $4 million plus incentives, and now he's a guy that can play first base, split the time with Tyler Austin. They should be okay there. They'll lose a little something without Bird, but they should be okay as long as the kid Tyler Wade plays. It looks like he's ready to start at second base.
All right, if the Yankees have a so-so year and underachieve, the reason would be what?
I think it'll be the starting pitching. I think it would be Sabathia hits a wall at age whatever he is, 37, 38, and Severino for some reason can't. He kind of had that regression 2 years ago. If he can't do what he did last year, Sonny Gray wasn't great last year. He was only okay coming over, and then you got a kid like Jordan Montgomery. Can he continue to advance? I think the rotation is okay. And then Tanaka, he had a great postseason, but he did not have a good regular season. So to me, there's a lot of questions in that rotation, and I do think that's the one strength. That's why I did pick the Yankees to win it all, because I think the depth of their farm system, Cashman will be, and this payroll rankings, I was shocked to see that they're number 7 overall. He's going to have money and prospects to make deals in July, and I think he'll end up getting another pitcher. But I think the starting pitching is the one downfall, the thing that could hurt them.
All right, if you like the Yankees to win it all, you're going to like the number. Over, under 93.5.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be shocked if they won 91 last. Look, a lot of things, injuries can change everything, but that lineup is loaded even without Bird. I mean, I just think they're going to score a ton of runs. The bullpen really is going to protect that rotation. You got if Betances gets it figured out again, they got 5 guys out there who are dominant relievers, including the kid Green, who had such a great year for them. So I think the bullpen really forgives a lot of sins maybe in the rotation, at least over the course of the season. So I'm going over easy.
Easy indeed, and I agree. Johnny, we'll talk. We'll keep in touch. Always a pleasure, pal. Thanks for the help today. Appreciate it.
Okay, Chris. See ya.
John Harper on the Yankees and the Mets. You heard Phil Rogers on the Cubs and the White Sox. And Bill Plunkett on the Dodgers and the Angels. We do the Giants and the A's in a little bit. We'll take a break first. We continue on Mad Dog on